two curves, 13.3. Before you guys go too far, I'll give you your handout. Yours you're gonna do now, so come on up. And let me dig through what I've got here and see if I got one. Ah, look at that. Maybe somebody's cheat sheet, so you're welcome. Alrighty. So area between two curves. The mnemonic for this sounds really dirty, so please bear with me, guys. It's not intentional. Not, I swear. Yeah, let's make it prettier. Let's make it bumpier. Who cares? Why not? Da, 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 da. Here's F. And here's G. And let's say I want to find this area. Actually, nice solid line there. So we have to figure out a way to build a single integral that will represent that area under the, or between the two curves. This sounds really bad, but bear with me. It'll help you to remember. Whoever's on top comes first. Wait for the giggles. Okay, so seriously though, guys, in this function, it's literally whichever function is on top, that comes first in the process. So this becomes the integral from a to b of the top function minus the bottom function, whichever is on top comes first in this process, okay? That's it. Whoever's on top comes first. That's it, okay? Now, sometimes, halfway through, we switch. Sorry. Oh God. Like so. So let's say you're looking for this area now. Kind of looks like DNA.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Who's thinking that? Yay, yeah, it looks like DNA. So let's say we start here, they switch halfway through, and they go to this point C. So how are we gonna set that sucker up?
Split it in two parts, right?
Yeah. Who's on top in the first region? Okay, so it's F minus G for what part? From what to what?
A to B.
A to B. And then we add the next area, right? Because we're adding areas. We're trying to find the total area. Now, which region is this? From what to what? B to C. So who's on top from B to C?
G.
So G comes first. It is that simple, guys. Oops, this should be dx as well. La, 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 la. That's really not pretty. Let me rewrite that in a way that you guys can actually see. That's much nicer.
I didn't get the second part.
Talk to me, Maria. What didn't you get?
The G minus F and C to B. So you went backwards?
No, I'm going from B to C. Always low to high. Low
Okay.
goes low, high goes high. So the first term is the low, the second is the high. First is low, second is high. So A to B, B to C.
Okay.
Now, do you understand why it's F minus G in the first
Yeah,
region
but
and
because
G
the
minus
top.
F in the second
Yeah,
region?
yeah. I got that.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, so you guys want to try some math?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Question? Oh, you want to do math? Yay. Hi, please. Let's try this one. So let's say I give you a pretty picture where I have y equals x squared plus 7 and y equals 1/2 x. And I ask you to find the area between the two curves between x equals 0 and x equals 7. Does anybody wonder why it's minus? Why it's top minus bottom? Well, the reason is, yeah, but that doesn't explain why it's minus. So if you look at the first page of your handout, think of these shaded areas as wooden blocks, okay? If I want the wooden block on the end, the last one, how am I gonna make that from this trapezoidal block right here? Or quadrilateral block? I would need to cut away the part I don't need, right? So I would literally take the entire block, which is the area under the top curve, minus the area under the bottom curve, gives me the area between the two curves. So that's why it's top minus bottom. Always, always, always. Okay? So far, so groovy. And then if you had to add multiple areas, that's where the addition comes in, like this one here. So for this guy, what's the region I need to shade?
The one where the dots are?
Out here?
No, inside.
In here?
The top one.
Yes.
Okay. That's between the two curves and between x equals 0 and x equals 7. Is everyone okay with that?
Mhm.
All right, so how do I set this integral up? What does that look like? Talk to me. Who's top?
Y is equal to x squared plus 7.
Who's bottom?
Y is equal to half x.
We're going from where to where? 0 to 7. Fedela.
It's 7, not 2.
Oh, yeah. Fedela and Helena? Were you the two that caught that? Extra credit works. Groovy. Okay. So now we can combine those, right? So I can do x squared plus 7 minus 1/2 x with respect to x from 0 to 7. Which integral is this? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
1.
It's number 1. What's my integral, guys?
2x.
X what? Over? Yeah. I heard it. 7x minus 1/2 times,
1. No, 2. 2 over 2.
alright. So now let's make this just a little bit prettier before we start plugging crap into it, shall we? So we're gonna make this x cubed over 3 plus 7x minus x squared over 4. Now we're doing this from 0 to 7. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you guys a second to catch up. I'll erase this stuff over here. All right. Any questions so far?
When you give us a problem, you are going to give us the graph with it, or we would have to decide?
I'm going to teach you guys how to do that today.
Okay.
Okay? Because this is a graph heavy section.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to want to know the pretty picture. Because graphing it helps you figure out who's on top, right? You may be able to figure out the intercepts, like where you're integrating from and where you're integrating to, but you need to know which function's on top so you can figure out how to set this up. Because let me guarantee you, this minus this ain't the same function. Agree? So now what's my, what do I do next? Plug what in? 7, and then the 0. So we have 7 cubed over 3 plus 7 times 7 minus 7 squared over 4. That's f of b minus 0 cubed over 3 plus 7 times 0 minus 0 squared over 4. I'm just putting this in to show that I know that all of these terms go to 0. All right? You can never assume that it, just because you're plugging a 0 in, that the function goes to 0. You cannot make that assumption, guys. You have to try it out. Just like using 0 to find k, you can't assume that k is 0. You still have to plug it in and do the math. Because it won't always be that way. So now, what do we have? I don't know, 343 over 3? Is that right? I don't even know. Let's just say 7 cubed over 3. 7 cubed over 3 plus 49 minus 49 over 4. So that's what I would plug into my calculator. That's a lot easier than all that nonsense, right? What's your answer? 151 point. Anybody else get that?
Yeah, I got it.
Awesome. Any questions? Which one of these would you be plugging into your calculator to check your work? This first guy? This second guy? This third guy? What? The first one? Second one. Ideally, you want to plug in a single function just to avoid confusion and avoid all the pitfalls of too many parentheses spoiling the soup, right? So create a single function, right? And then integrate it from 0 to 7 in your calculator. So let's practice that. Groovy. It's good practice.
And so because there's a minus in between them, we just can bring them together.
Yeah. you can
But
bring
if
them
it was
together.
not, then
Subtraction,
we'd
subtraction.
have to multiply.
There will never not be a minus sign in the middle.
Okay, so,
Because you're doing top minus bottom. That's the
okay,
formula.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, there may end up being a plus sign because you've distributed the minus and made it positive, but
Yeah,
yeah, there will always be that negative sign initially.
that is right.
What'd you get? Yay! So I want thumbs from you guys once you get it. It's good practice. Nick, feel good? Anthony, feel good? Ruby. Alex, good? Yeah. Anybody struggling with their calculator? Yes, Griffin.
I just forgot to plug it in.
Absolutely, so I'll put that on the board. Yeah, you're welcome. So as a reminder, not all of you are so lucky to have the other format. So for you guys, it's gonna look like this. Function int, open parentheses, that's what you're given. And here's what I want you to plug in. Open parentheses, x squared plus 7 minus 1/2 x, or 0.5x, or whatever you can do to make that easy. Close parentheses, comma, x, comma, 0, comma, 7, and then close your final parentheses to match up your function int. Okay, so basically what you're doing here is function, comma, with respect to, comma, from, comma, to, and then close parentheses. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Do we need a double parenthesis on the end as well?
no. Look at what we've got here. We've got these parentheses match up, and these parentheses match up. It starts you by opening the parentheses just like a natural log does, and then you have to close it. Okay?
That X was a question when I was doing that.
This
Thank
X
you.
right here,
So it's with respect to X.
it's with respect to X.
Thank
Just
you.
like right here, that's this part.
Yeah.
You're integrating this function with respect to X from X equals 0 to X equals 7. That's what you're programming in your calculator,
Thank you.
essentially. So does everybody have it? You guys good? Awesome, let's try another one. The more we see, the better they get. I like this one. I actually use my notes in this section because it's hard for me to imagine functions. Much easier. Find the area or areas enclosed by y equals 2x and y equals x cubed minus x squared. What's the easiest way to figure that out? Graph it. Hell yeah, graph it. Sometimes you'll have to play with your window. Remember, getting it back to -10 to 10 and -10 to 10 might be the easiest way to start these. It may not give you all the detail you want, but it's a great starting point. Okay? We do these in 2 colors, blue and green. So give me a thumb when you've got your little graph of your 2 functions. Okay, groovy. So does this one look, I think it looks like that? No, that's not quite how it looks. It looks more like this. And then we have this going on. Gesundheit. Is that right? Is that about what you guys see? Maybe quite small compared? Okay. So maybe it's just a little bit smaller, like a lot of it smaller. So now, how do you find the intersect points? We need this x value right here. We need this x value right here, and we need this x value right here. So how do you find those? So grab your calculators and go to second trace, which is calculate. So when you get into second trace, arrow down to intersect and hit enter. Okay. And now your cursors are gonna be on these functions. Up in the upper left-hand corner, it's gonna tell you which function you're on. Let's start with the really easy one. I want you to arrow your cursor over until it's near this point. It doesn't have to be right on it, just near it. You wanna tell the computer, the calculator, which intersection you care about. Otherwise, it's gonna be all over the map. Okay? Once you get near to this center one, hit zero, or sorry, not zero, hit enter. And then it's gonna give you your second function up here in the upper left-hand corner. And you're gonna arrow its cursor until you're near. So basically what you're doing is you're loading a car on the green function and loading a car on the blue function and trying to make them crash over some X value. So when it says guess, hit enter again, and what's your X value? X equals 0, good. Okay, so now let's try that on the farthest one over here. So you're gonna do the same thing, second trace, intersect, find your cursor near that twice, and then hit enter, and tell me what your X value is.
So would you put your cursor on the green line or the blue
Both.
line?
So initially it's gonna put it on one or the other. And you can toggle up or down to switch between them, and you can arrow over left or right to move the cursor along the function.
But it can be on the blue line when you're doing this.
I would grab your calculator and,
I kind of did that
okay.
at home.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your other X value here, guys? I heard a -2 and a -1. Who had the -2? Nikki. Let me see it. You have x2, not x squared. Okay. So -1. Okay, now let's try this one over here. And tell me what your X value is. It's what? 2, good. All right, now who's on top for this first region from -1 to 0? The blue one. And who's on top for the region from 0 to 2? The green one. Okay, so how do we set this up, guys? Oh, by the way, how would we do this algebraically? Because some of you are like, screw the graphing, I want to do it algebraically. It's okay, you can do that too. How would we do it?
Set them equal to each other.
There you go, Ryder. We'd set them equal to each other. So 2x equals x cubed minus x squared. 0 equals x cubed minus x squared minus 2x. I'm going to factor out an x, giving me x squared minus x minus 2. And the factors that multiply to -2 and add to -1 are x minus 2, x plus 1. So out of these we get x equals 0, x equals 2, and x equals -1. Okay? So even then, we would still probably want to graph it. But what if you still didn't want to graph it to figure out who's on top in each region? What would you do? So let's say we don't have this pretty picture, but we know that they're probably going to switch. So we need to know who's on top in each of these regions. So we have -2, 0, or sorry, -1, 0, and 2. Scale doesn't matter.
I would pick a number in the region and plug it in.
Yep, and whichever one has a higher y is on top, right? Whichever one has a taller y or higher y, bigger y. So we could test -0.5 and we could test 1 in both of these functions. So just for giggles, if I plug 1 into this function, what do I get? 2. If I plug 1 into this function, what do I get? So who's on top from 0 to 2? The green one. Wow, that shows up here too as well, doesn't it? So there's more than one way to tackle this problem. You can do it algebraically or you can do it graphically. I like the graphs because I think that it's kind of foolproof as long as you plug it in correctly. Okay, so now what? Talk to me about setting this puppy up. I'm integrating from what to what first?
-1 to 0.
Okay, who's on top? X cubed minus x squared minus 2x, right? It's the top function minus the bottom function. How do I set up the second integral? 0 to 2. Who's on top? 2x minus x cubed plus x squared. You guys with me? So I'm subtracting that bottom function, so all its signs are going to change. Same issue you saw with subtracting cost. You must subtract all of the function, not just the first term. So what are my integrals? That's not so bad. So in this one, you would do the function with 0 minus the function with -1 plus the function with 2 minus the function with 0. This can get really hairy, guys. So just for funsies, if you decide you want to practice it, I'll give you the answer. Okay? If you decide you want to practice your math. Okay?
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
The second part where you have in the integral 2 and 0, you got 2x. How did you do that one?
This one right here?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see why it's from 0 to 2? It's always A,
Yes.
low number goes low, high number goes high.
Correct.
So 0 to 2. But who's on top in that region? The green one or the blue one?
The green one.
So it's gonna be 2x comes first,
Yeah.
there it is. And then you subtract this function. So when I subtract this, this is gonna go negative and this is gonna go positive. So minus x cubed plus x squared,
Thank you.
okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
Good, good. How do you guys feel? What's the hardest part? Talk to me, guys. I know the pitfalls, but you need to figure out where you're stuck so I can help you. Or give me a thumb if you're not stuck. That's cool too. You know, most of you are like nonverbal this morning. It's all right.
I think more practice would help.
Totally okay. Oh yeah, we're gonna do more. We're gonna do more. Don't you worry your happy little head about that. All right. I've got Ed Sheeran stuck in my brain now. It's a good thing I like that song. He is a Muppet, isn't he? I just want to like grab him and sit him down and give him a haircut. Distorted. Is that you, Christina? Okay, so this one's for you guys. This is a test type problem. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I want to ask you guys a question. Which one can you not graph? X equals 1. Why? I mean WHY, not just Y. You said vertical and then you went like this. So which is it? It's a vertical line, okay? Your calculator is graphing functions. That is not a function, it's a vertical line. So if you try to plug in this into one of the y values, it's gonna give you y equals 1, which is a horizontal line. You want a vertical line. So this is something you're gonna have to imagine. Ruby? Okay, so what does your graph look like? Because we're gonna need the graph, guys, so we can visualize this. So grab your calculators. Double check my picture. Well, there's no enclosure going in there until what? You add that vertical line.
Where's your window?
My window, that's a great question. Small. I would go -3 to 3, -3 to 3. Small. It's a small area. Did that give it to you, Helena? Okay, good.
Why didn't you do -10 and 10?
I probably would have initially if I was completely unfamiliar with this problem. And then you would have seen something that looks like this.
Very tiny.
Very tiny stuff going on, right? And you want to hone in on this action right here. So I would zoom in a little bit, okay?
And did you take the 3 because x over 3? Is that the reason?
No, it has nothing to do with that. The -3 to 3 is completely arbitrary and capricious, but not permanent, not pernicious. Okay.
What do those words mean exactly?
You have the internet at your fingertips. My mom, she was savage, man. When I asked her a question, she'd be like, look it up. I don't know how to spell it. Do your best. And that was back in the dictionary days, yo.
I don't know how to use my phone.
We were old school. Shut up, people. I'm old. So, I still have a dictionary at my bedside table. My husband gave it to me as a joke because we argue over the meaning of words. I'm usually right. So we circle every one that we've looked up and we put money in it every time one of us is wrong. Pretty funny. We're dorks. It's like $10 in there. Most of them are mine. So where am I integrating from? Have you guys found it yet? What's this intersection here? -1. And I'm going to x equals what? 1. Okay, groovy. So who's on top? Yeah, x cubed plus 1 plus x plus 1. I'll wait for you guys to digest that. I love my husband. He's so sweet. My mom hurt her wrist last night before we took her to the airport, and Jeremy spent half an hour tearing the house apart looking for a wrist guard. Yeah, he's the cutest boy. Seriously, people. Find somebody who loves you like that and hold on tight. It rocks. loves your mom like that too. Good. So does everyone see where those numbers come from and the signs? Griffin, talk to me.
I don't get where all the pluses came from.
Ha! What did I do? I did top minus bottom. So when I subtract this, all the signs are gonna change. Okay? So now let's clean it up a little bit before we integrate, because why not? We'll have x cubed plus x plus 2 with respect to x. And that's what you would plug into your calculator to test your answer. Yeah, better that.
Why is it the one like minus?
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
Because I'm subtracting. Watch what happens when I do this in parentheses. Here's top, here's bottom. Top minus bottom. So now distribute that negative sign. That's why.
The x.
This,
Yeah.
this is not in the function.
Oh.
This is a vertical line. It is not a function. Notice how I dotted it? You can't draw that, you can't graph it. Well, you can draw it, but you can't graph it. Okay? And it doesn't go in the integral. It's just the line where you stop. Okay, so you're integrating from -1 to +1. So it just gives you a limit. That's all. You're welcome. So it's my integral, guys. Talk to me. Watch your signs. Okay? Watch them. So I have 1 to the 4th over 4 plus 1 squared over 2 plus 2 times 1 minus -1 to the 4th over 4 plus -1 squared over 2 plus 2 times -1. All right, guys.